Welcome to Sounds of Resistance channel. The war between Ukraine and Russia has entered a whole new phase, and this new phase is completely under the control of Ukraine. Vladimir Putin is shaken by the desertion of his most elite troops and agents as the Ukrainian army puts incredible pressure on the Russian soldiers and even the entire Russian Federation. The legendary escape of Russian FSB agents and Wagner Group members from Putin once again made Putin's authority in the Kremlin questioned. We will examine the striking details shortly. The mobilization decision announced by the dictator's leader Vladimir Putin did not benefit the Russians in any way. As the 8th month of the Ukraine-Russia war is almost over, the Russian leader still believes that the mobilization decision will change this. For this reason, Vladimir Putin is trying to increase the number of volunteers to be recruited into the Russian army to over 300,000. But Putin's plan only widens the cracks in the Russian military, because volunteer citizens who are included in the Russian army have carried out many bloody actions in the past weeks. Russian citizens do not want to be in the Russian army even voluntarily. Vladimir Putin, on the other hand, is trying to make Russian citizens volunteer soldiers, even by force, by ignoring the thoughts of the Russian citizens. After the mobilization decision announced by Vladimir Putin, the number of people leaving the country in Russia in general increased considerably. In addition, the number of people who left the country is expressed in almost millions, with Vladimir Putin raising the mobilization decision to the second level and forcing Russian citizens to leave the country, especially Russian citizens who fled the countries such as Armenia, Georgia, and Kazakhstan left there in order to avoid being Putin's army. The Russian leader, on the other hand, did not give up on his mobilization decision and continued to recruit his citizens who remained in Russia to the Russian army. In fact, the manhunt initiated by the Russian Guard regiments, thousands of Russian citizens who had chronic illnesses and did not meet the mobilization criteria were forcibly sent to Ukraine to fight. Making a statement after these scandals, Russian Defense Minister Shoigu said that all mistakes made will be corrected. But despite Shoigu's statements, the order that Russia continued from where it led off. Thousands of citizens who did not meet the criteria were included in the Russian army. Russian leader Vladimir Putin, in addition to the citizens he included in the Russian army with the decision of mobilization, also resorted the mercenary method. Vladimir Putin, who made an official agreement with the Wagner criminal organization, whose name is known to almost the whole world, did not care at all about the rules of the war. But unexpectedly, one member of the Wagner group and one Russian FSB agent gave the Russian leader the shock of his life. It turned out that the employee of PMC Wagner and an employee of the FSB sought political asylum in France. These two individuals, who hold the evidence that will help the international investigation of Russia's war crimes, seem to leave the Russian administration helpless. It is claimed that the two asylum seekers also have a lot of data on both the corruption plans of the FSB and the history of PMC Wagner's creation as a branch of the GRU. In recent months, several Russian intelligence officers have left Russia and sought asylum. But this event was the most resonant example among them. One of the asylum seekers is an employee of the headquarters and the Prigozhin team. The second is an employee of the FSB. These two asylum seekers boarded the same plane and set off for France. Initially, these two people aroused a lot of suspicion since both of them had the same boarding pass and had seat numbers next to each other. Because these two asylum seekers did not reveal their identities in any way before boarding the plane to France, both people were sitting on the plane in seats 28 and 29. Both were on their way to France to simultaneously seek political asylum and international protection. That's why they both looked quite agitated and very strange. The French police and airport security also had suspicions about these two people, and measures were taken. When the plane landed in France, all the facts surfaced. Both individuals applied for asylum directly from the French administration. This development, which left the Russian administration on its toes, will make a lot of noise, as the two asylum seekers will disclose the war crimes of both the Putin administration and the Wagner Group. Because it is claimed that these two people have very deep knowledge, it is expected that one member of the Wagner Group and one Russian FSB agent who took a critical role in the Ukraine-Russian war and fled to France with a request of asylum will change all the balances. Both the Russian administration and the Wagner Group are concerned about the emergence of thousands of secret documents about the Ukraine war. The individual, a member of the Wagner Group seeking asylum, will demonstrate how PMC Wagner was created under the Ministry of Defense of the Russian Federation, under the GRU, how the state set up the system to finance and supply PMCs, and how these secret units participated in the sabotage work in eastern Ukraine. He said he had the information. The FSB employee seeking asylum claimed that he had a very serious insider knowledge of the document flow, with a lot of important information to be released in stages, underlining that he has a lot of documents about the processes that took place in connection with the occupation of Ukraine and recently through the Counterintelligence Department and the Ministry of Defense. The FSB employee said he will reveal many secret war crimes. Since a large part of European countries, especially France, provide political asylum and protection to those in danger and those who are at risk of life and health, these two individuals wanted to take refuge in France directly. Detailed statements of these two asylum seekers will be sought in the future. The reaction of the Russian administration and Wagner Group leader Yevgeny Prigozhin in the face of this shocking development is quite curious. The name of the Wagner Group, one of the private security companies based in Russia, was heard in the conflicts during the anti-Kiev uprising in the Donbas region in eastern Ukraine. With the statements of these two asylum seekers, it is estimated that the Wagner Group's connection in the Russian army will decrease. The paramilitary organization Wagner Group, which is stated to be the owner of an oligarch close to Russian President Vladimir Putin, was also accused of siding with the United Arab Emirates and said Egypt-backed General Khalifa Haftar forces in Libya. The Wagner Group, which will add new ones to these crimes, will no longer be able to commit war crimes in Ukraine and will not be able to cooperate with Russia. Sources closely following Wagner claim that fighters affiliated with the group carried out covert operations in Ukraine and Syria on behalf of the Kremlin. The Russian authorities, on the other hand, flatly denied the accusations that Wagner members took orders from Moscow and acted in this direction. Russian businessman Yevgeny Prigozhin, who is known for his closeness to President Vladimir Putin, had previously denied the claims that Wagner belonged to him. However, the United States has imposed sanctions on Prigozhin, accusing him of interfering in the 2016 presidential and 2018 congressional elections. Prigozhin claimed that he had no ties to Wagner, that he would not comment on Washington's claims, and that this was a private matter of the US Treasury Department. However, the statements of two asylum seekers in France revealed that the secret links between the Wagner Group and the Russian administration were revealed, and that the Wagner Group's covert operations in the US were expected to come to light. The Russian administration, like the Wagner Group, had recruited many mercenaries into the Russian army. The fact that mercenaries were preferred by Russian leader Vladimir Putin due to their ability to fight to death was highly criticized, but no